Welcome to the Flower of Freedom, Chapter 7. As always, your seat is ready, and we've been looking forward to your arrival. We're so happy when you find your way back to us. If you want to catch up on previous chapters, they are posted on our website. Listen at your convenience. I wrote The Flower of Freedom to remind us all of the lives that were impacted by the Nazi occupation of France. Those impacts echoed around the world, and forgetting the suffering allows us all to be vulnerable to repeating the cataclysmic mistakes of the past. Please make yourself comfortable. I will read the next chapter, which is entitled Canadian Maple Syrup. As always, all rights to the book and to my presentation of it are reserved. Here we go. Don't forget to feel comfy. It's your spot. It's reserved for you. Chapter 7, Canadian Maple Syrup. Early one spring, when the maple sap was running, the little family left their apartment on a sunny morning and they went to a sugar shack in rural Quebec. Tromping through the freshly fallen snow, they toured the maple groves where they saw the sap, tapped from the trees, running into buckets. The air was cool and fragrant and sweet with the smell of boiling syrup. They watched the maple syrup being boiled in huge vats over wood fires, and the entrepreneurs dripped maple candy into the pristine snowbanks for the children to sample. Oscar went through and bought a large bottle of maple syrup and some of the maple candy for the kids. It was the sort of innocent good time that the twins had come to love. Oscar's antennae went up when he noticed one solitary man who seemed to be watching the little group. He maneuvered so that he sat next to him at lunch. Oscar ensured that he had to sit next to him. No one on earth cooks better, more flavorful fare than the women of rural Quebec. As plate after overflowing plate was passed along the table, those at the table surreptitiously let out one more notch on their belt. During the seemingly casual conversation, Oscar was surprised to note that the man was from France. His diction and wording gave that away. Even though the man never mentioned it explicitly, he plied Oscar with questions. Had he ever been to France, he asked. I was there during the war, said Oscar, but it's not something that I enjoy discussing. Was your wife born in Canada? The man asked, and Oscar's hackles went up. Yes, in Trois-Rivières, he said, and then he stood up, saying that he had something pressing that he had to attend to at home. Colette and the children were surprised, but they reluctantly rose to go. As Marie passed by the man, he put a business card in her hand, with a smile he wished was endearing. When they got to the car, Marie told her papa what had happened, and she gave him the card. Good girl, Oscar said, kissing her on top of the head. He handed the card to his wife, who looked at him with alarm. That guy gave me the creeps, Papa, said Marie, as Bertie said, me too, and he did not even talk to me. Sometimes it's just better to leave a situation before it can escalate into something bad. That's part of the reason why Mama and I always tell you to keep an eye on your surroundings. That's behind us now, so let's forget about it and enjoy our day, he said, driving into Montreal. We can have a fun day at home. Late that night, when the children were fast asleep, Oscar brought the encounter up again. They wondered who the man might be and what he wanted from their family. Together, the protective parents dredged up all the old memories from the rescue at the chateau, the flight, the reception in Canada, and the new papers for the girls, their pregnancy in Montreal, Anne-Marie's death, and Marie's adoption. Marie had always known, of course, about her beautiful, sprightly mother, just as she had always known that she and Bertie were eternally loved by 3 parents, 2 of whom were left behind to care for these children, one of whom went ahead to scout out their final home. Thank God, Oscar knew enough from his training to memorize a cover story, and he could instantly retrieve his wife's place of birth. What had motivated the guy to ask that question? They wondered. Who could he possibly be? They relived the end of the war when Oscar's commander showed up in Montreal a year after that and told Oscar that Desmond was officially declared dead. They discussed the information that they had been given. Des had been taken to the SS headquarters in Paris, and he had most likely faced the monster of Paris. Neither of the men noticed when Colette turned pale and excused herself from the conversation. The horror never ends, does it? Oscar lamented. Well, Oscar, I'm looking around this place. I met your beautiful wife and kids. I'm not seeing much horror in this present. What is that old expression? You know the one. They call it the present because it's a gift. I think Des was hoping that you would see it that way. Oscar nodded. I stand corrected, he muttered with more light in his eyes. The commander showed Oscar Desmond's will, which Des had registered with the armed services according to protocol. It directed his Army's death benefit to a sister in Ontario, and he left his stake in the apartment building and the contents of his apartment to Oscar. Apparently, Des had been paying a new form of insurance on the building that resulted in the mortgage being cleared upon his death. The commander had already spoken to the bank manager that Des had mentioned in the will to start the process rolling. Oscar had no idea that it had existed. Des had written that Oscar's parents' estate had been the down payment for the building and that he had never properly paid his share. So this was his way of paying it back. He wrote a note to Oscar. Go wild, was all it said. Typical Des, Oscar thought as he put his head in his hands and cried. He realized that the tears were mingled with memories and gratitude. Oh, Des. The memories were hard to face again, but they did it together. They spoke of many things, but mostly of how perfect their lives together had been, and in the wee hours of the morning, they fell asleep in one another's arms. That's the end of chapter 7. I really do hope you'll come back for chapter 8. The title of that chapter is Dreaming. See you then. I'll be waiting for you. Your friend, Deborah Reeves. Bye.